I know you went to A&M. You were studying finance there. What made you? What kind of pushed you over the edge? Like, tell me that story, like from the beginning of like how did you decide to really make this official? You know, a lot of athletes have got a finance degree, but not that many people took the Series 7. So
Sure.
tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so essentially, I had a very serious arm surgery. I had Tommy John surgery
Right.
on my elbow, which is sort of like a football player having ACL. Like, you're going to recover from it,
Yeah.
but there's always a chance you may not be the same and all that stuff. And so coming out of surgery, I didn't really have the feeling that I was going to make it to the big leagues.
Yeah.
I kind of thought I was kind of in no man's land. Basically, it just took a full season and a half off. And we got new ownership, all these people like that. I didn't even know if they knew who I was.
Right. You were worried you'd get
I
lost in the
studied
system.
financing. Yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
There's over 150 minor leaguers. I was totally lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
So I studied finance in college. Had two grandparents or two grandfathers that were very involved in the market. My dad was involved, and essentially, I just got an opportunity with the company that my mom's dad had invested with for over 40 years, a company called B. Riley. And when I went in there, I was just kind of expecting to maybe just learn a little bit, kind of shadow a guy, or I didn't even know what to expect. And within 5 minutes, they were like, man, it would be awesome if we could get you licensed and, with the network of people around you and that kind of stuff, you could be really good at this job just by the network you've created through baseball and at Texas A&M and that kind of stuff. And I was like, man, I didn't even think about that. What does that entail? And that's when you got into it. You got to take the 70 or the 7 and the 66 and these two giant tests. And but over the next two off seasons, I cranked them out and got it done.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious for maybe the people who might be watching this who don't really know the Series 7. Can you tell me a little bit about that test and how you prepared? And my friends who
Sure.
have taken friends who have tested for certification, I didn't see them for like a summer. It's not like I'm taking a little aptitude test. It's a big deal. So maybe just walk me through. Just tell me a little bit about the test and what you did to prepare and how you broke that down, because you're obviously training too during the off season.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so this was the off season of 2015, heading into 2016, and I didn't even start working at B. Riley until maybe December. So I only had about a month and a half or so to prepare for that test before I headed off to spring training. And luckily, the Series 7 is in my opinion, a little bit more cut and dry as far as what it is. It's more kind of like vocabulary and kind of knowing all the different kind of bonds and stocks, equities, knowing different option trades and things like that. And I wish I could remember exactly how many multiple choice questions it is and how long it is. But a funny story is it's split into two parts. And where I took a test is right next to a Pappasito's. If anyone knows what a Pappasito's is, it's like it's a Texas, I think mostly a Texas chain of Mexican food, and they have other stuff anyways. So the first test, or the first tap, let's say, I think it's like 150 questions, about two hours long maybe. I went out of that thinking I just got my butt kicked. So I walk over to Pappasito's and get a margarita because we got
Yeah.
30 minutes to kill, and I'm just like, man, that was terrible. And go back in and crank out the next basically 150 questions and end up passing. And so what that test does is it basically gives you, basically license you to be able to essentially like talk to clients and be able to make trades on their behalf, but it doesn't give you, it doesn't license you to actually give advice. So like, let's say you're my client and you want to buy stock XYZ, you can tell me to buy it, but I cannot pitch you stock XYZ and tell you should buy it for this reason. You need the 66 for that, which was the test I took the next year.
Gotcha. And so you took the 7, you passed, and you're like, holy shit, I passed.
Yeah.
And then but you knew you wanted to take it to the next level. And then how did you prepare for that? Like, how did you decide? Like, I think a lot of people might have stopped at the Series 7. I know plenty of people that have done that. But it's like, why did you? What about sort of your experience at your job or with the test made you know, like, hey, I want to keep going down this road a little further? And you're playing Major League Baseball, by the way.
Sure.
Like on this.
Right, yeah, so that's the craziest thing is after I passed the 7, I actually debuted in the major leagues that year. So now, baseball is front and center when it always was, but now I'd actually, kind of made it to the big leagues, made it to the pinnacle of the dream. And, a lot of people would have said, okay, now baseball is all I'm going to focus on. But I got through with that 2016 season, and you basically need both. You need the 7 and the 66. I was only halfway done. I wasn't gonna just do half of it, and I knew that I enjoyed it just from working the off season prior and going in there a little bit in that next off season. I enjoyed it, and I wanted to finish what I started. So I started prepping for the 66, which is much different. The 66 is written by lawyers. It's like one of those tests where it's like, Joe Blow has 60 grand to invest. What should he do? And then it says like, A, B, C, and then the answer choices will be like, well, A and B, or A
right.
and not C,
yeah,
and A,
gotcha.
B, and maybe E.
Yeah.
Like it's just the worst kind of test.
Right.
And that one gives you the license, like I said earlier, where you can actually give advice. So that one was much tougher because I thought the first one, the 7, was much more kind of verbiage and just kind of being able to remember something and spit it out. This one, you really had to know scenarios and really know your stuff. And that one I barely passed, but I got it done.
Passed,
so
yeah.
All that matters. So that makes me officially a licensed, stockbroker, money manager, whatever you want to call it.
Congratulations, that's so cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. So then, have you picked up clients? Are you kind of advising, and how did you approach that? Are you like walking through clubhouses, like handing out cards? Like how did you, who are you advising now, and like how big do you want it to go, and like in a dream world, in a dream scenario, how many, where do you see this going next? You certified.
Well, great question. I think one thing that's so beautiful about it is 2 things. One, B. Riley has been great about not pressuring me to get clients. They're not like, hey, you need to get Clayton Kershaw right now. Like, you gotta have it. Like they're not saying that, which is so great that I don't have that pressure. They're letting me focus on baseball and, kind of doing this on the side. And if, and luckily it's really, become well known that this is what I do on the side. So guys have asked me a lot of questions and want to get involved. And then 2, my network is great. If you look at the guys around my locker room, they make a lot of money. So I have access to people that have a lot of money and they want to invest it and they want to learn more about it. So I have a mixture of kind of like a soundboard for them and someone that they can, get ideas from and all sorts of stuff. So to answer your question, I do, and this is with a mixture of my boss, a guy named Matthew Houston, who's one of the vice presidents down at our Houston branch of B. Riley. And we do most of my family, my grandparents, my brother, my parents, myself, and then I have 1 or 2 teammates who I don't know if I should say or not, so I'll leave names out of it, but I've only picked up 1 or 2 teammates, and then I got 2 friends. So it's about 7 or 8 accounts that I pretty much actively manage, but during the season, a lot of it is with the help of my boss back in Houston.
Gotcha. And so what's the, I know you're from Pennsylvania, right? So what's the why?
No, so that's, sorry to interrupt you.
No way.
I was born there. I only lived there until I was like 6 months old.
So you're Texan.
I moved to Texas.
Okay,
Texan,
gotcha. Yeah, so I was just figuring out exactly, because I know they have, this company is based in Memphis or something. I was just trying to tie the okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So that's the Houston connection. So is your family based in Houston basically, or around there?
Yeah, for the most part. We grew up more in DFW, but
okay.
Now a lot of my family and my wife's family are in Houston.
Cool. Yeah, I'm from Kansas City originally, so a lot of Dallas people go to Dallas from Kansas City. I feel like a lot. Yeah, so I'd be kind of curious. It's kind of like a stepping back from it all. As a financial advisor, what are some things you believe in? If you're just getting started, this is a really confusing time in the market. I feel like it's been a wild run here, and then now I'm trying to get into cash right now. Like, what are some things you kind of outlook if you just sort of somebody who's learning about, I think it's cool right now that it's access through, whether it's through apps or whatever, it's easier, it's more accessible than it's ever been. But I also think there's more information, there's more saturation. I don't know if you have I abide by the Elizabeth Warren principle, or I do what are sort of the things you believe, and if you're getting started and your teammates who are approaching you, what are you telling them that are just getting started? What is the way you think about it, I suppose?
Well, it sounds like you know your stuff.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, it's so different case by case. Some guys, even if they make a whole bunch of money, they want to be very conservative. Some guys have very little money and they want to get risky right from the start. So that's where you got to do your due diligence of kind of figuring out, I guess the risk profile of whoever the potential client is. But just in general, let's just say someone comes up to me with not much knowledge of the market at all. What I would say is, at first you probably want to invest in things that you like, and things that you understand. You don't want to invest in some company that does, cloud cybersecurity and you don't know what that means. That's not going to be very fun. You probably want to invest in Apple because you have an iPhone, or Amazon because you're a Prime member, or things like that. So you want to start with things that you understand.
Yep.
And then you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket right off the bat. You want to get a feel for different things, whether that's ETFs, mutual funds, individual equities, municipal bonds, whatever it is, and do some due diligence on trying to learn things that you like and learn what's risky, what's not, how to diversify. Because now, like you said, with apps, things like Robinhood and E-Trade and all that kind of stuff, a lot of people think that they can just log on to an account and use the information that's given, and all of a sudden they're their own investor, and that can get guys in trouble. But at the same time, it's easy to access so much information that people can really learn how to take care of their money. But I still think the use of a money manager is important, especially for people of high wealth, just because, it's so hard to take care of your money, especially if you got another job and other things going on, a family, all that. There's so many ways, to diversify across different things. So it's really important.
Totally. Good pitch. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, what was I going to ask? You were saying sort of when you're sort of, I always think it's interesting where it took me a while to feel this way, but I always kind of thought it was the fun part was like researching companies and like try, like whatever, like, hey, I want to invest in Chick-fil-A, better go get some Chick-fil-A, and kind of really get a feel for, like, you can make that fun. Of course, it depends on what it is, and it's like, I'm like a Tesla investor. I don't have a Tesla. I've been in one. I know it's good. It's just more of a play. Like I always thought that was kind of the fun part, was like learning about companies and doing research. And it's like you get to be like a detective kind of. And it sounds silly, but it's like that's the best way to get to know if you like something and whether you think it has a future.
Yeah. Oh man, it's almost like being a detective and gambling at the same time.
Yeah.
So it kind of fits like two vices for people, but. There's no better feeling than, let's say, I stumble across an article that has a stock or a company I've never heard of, and you're like, okay, I like this article, so you dive into it, and it's early, it's trading at less than $10 or whatever it is, and you're like, okay, I really like what this company does. I'm going to keep diving in. What's their forecast? What are they expecting in the future? What do they do? Is it something that the world can live without, or is it something that changes our world? Is it something that I can see still being around in 10 years?
Right.
And you take a shot on them and they blow up. That's a really cool feeling.
Yeah.
Is, the people that invested in Netflix 8 years ago, the people that invested in Amazon 20 years ago, Apple 30 years ago, that those people are sitting back right now on their yachts and just saying like, yeah, baby, I called that one.
And what are some things that you tend to avoid? I don't know whether it's like, I'm trying to think of what I mean by that. Like, what are some things that are sort of dangerous when, we're talking about, red flags for you when you're looking at, you're with a peer group that is making a good amount of money. What are some things maybe that are some risky red flags that people go after, whether it's like buying boats and stuff, but even past that, what are the investments that are sort of more red flags, I guess you put it that way?
Okay, I was thinking you were asking like if I'm looking at a stock and trying to decide whether to buy it.
Oh no, I mean no, I don't.
You mean like what do people of high wealth like spend their money on?
Or just like your kind of breakdown of like what you don't like when you're looking at a portfolio.
Well, in general, our generation doesn't save, right? If you look at the stats, I think our generation saves the least of any generation ever.
Yeah.
And that's just, nowadays, man, that's the way it is. You got a cell phone bill, you got your Netflix, you got your HBO monthly payment, all that stuff. There's just so many things out there that can, start charging your credit card every month, and all of a sudden you don't have any money to save. So that's the biggest thing you want to tell someone that's my age that's starting to plan for the future is, man, you got to, whether it's, even if it's just $50, $100, like start putting it aside. Because the numbers of compound interest speak for themselves. The earlier you start compounding your money, the better. So, but other red flags, man, is just I mean, I feel like those would be the obvious. Like, what'd you say, a yacht or a car?
Yeah,
Like,
or just buying stuff,
yeah,
buying stuff
if you
that
have a
depreciates
car,
like crazy. Yeah,
right? Yeah, you don't need to buy another car. But off the top of my head, I guess I don't have a great answer for you. But it's just you have to save money because, like I said, the earlier you start compounding money, the better you're gonna feel in your 50s and 60s looking back.
yeah. I always feel, and I like sneakers. Don't get me wrong, but I was just so like raised, and my dad would, my mom and would like my parents were accountants, and they would never like they'd always get like the car that was 2 years old, and everyone would be like, why didn't we get a new car? And they're like, no, just like trust me, like we saved 15 grand like not getting this new car, and it's basically has like 1,000 miles on it. I guess like. How do you look at sneakers? People are buying so many sneakers. Like a lot of our audience is really, we cover a lot of sneakers and flipping and stuff like that. What's sort of your party line on sneakers, luxury sneakers and expensive sneaker purchases? What's your advice there?
Well, man, I wish I knew more about it. I wish I could give you a better answer. I think if it's kind of like watches, maybe. I got a lot of buddies and teammates that are like watches. I mean, they're technically a good investment.
Yeah.
I don't know if sneakers are that. But if they are, then it's great.
Yeah.
It's like sitting on maybe a really old baseball card or something. I'm trying to think of something that could be an example. So if that's, if that's why you're doing it and you're not wearing it out in the rain and letting them get ruined and all that stuff, then that's totally fine. But if you just have an itch that you can't scratch, you got to go buy just too many shoes and all that, then yeah, you're probably spending too much money. But everyone has their vices, man. It's okay if sneakers are them, that's fine. But
yeah, for sure.
And maybe hold back somewhere else so you can save a little money.
Yeah, totally. Something you don't have as much passion for. Yeah, Gary he preaches. He thinks like baseball cards are the next sneakers. He just sees that. Yeah, that's his.
They're gonna make a comeback.
That's what he says. I think also he does so much like flipping and going to garage sales, and I'm guessing baseball cards are just like I'm thinking of people of my parents' generation, and they're probably just like, oh, like. They're never coming back for these book of cards. I better set them out, but there's just going to be an opportunity, which is interesting. I hadn't really thought about cards in a while.
Well, that's good. I need to go to my mom's closet and see if mine are still sitting in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Or else I messed
up. So yeah, who on the Dodgers needs the most help?
Oh man, I don't know if I can answer that question.
Well, you can answer it in a way where you're ribbing someone. I'd love to. I was just looking. I was looking through the new contracts. I was like, I mean, Kershaw, but it's like he's in a different territory. AJ Pollock, I saw, has got a new contract. So like, who are the guys that are have some walking around money and who needs the most help?
As far as the most help, Kershaw would be a great guy to help. That's a good guy to have on your side. He doesn't need it though. Once those guys start making that kind of money. They have a team of people that help him invest it, and also part of foundations and charities and stuff that they get involved in. So the guys that need help are, for instance, like the 18-year-old kid that just got drafted in the first round, and his family's never had money, he's never had money, and he's probably got people calling him out the wazoo trying to essentially take advantage of him, or even like young Cuban kids that come over from Cuba or Venezuela, Puerto Rico, and they just got a bunch of money in their pocket, and they don't, for the first time, they're out of their country and living in a hotel here in Phoenix and with millions of dollars in their pocket, So those are the guys that need help, and, that's a big reason why I got involved in this, is I'd like to be able to help guys like that. Even if they don't invest their money with me, I'd just love to be there to be able to help where they say, hey, this guy called me yesterday, and he says I should put $1 million into Bitcoin. I'm thinking about doing it, and I'll be like, look, man, I don't know. That's half your net worth. I don't think we should be throwing it in Bitcoin right now, So if I can just help one or two guys in situations like that, then it's worth it.